Let me know when we're recording and we're there.
I think we are live now.
Okay, we are live. We need to record. Okay, we need to record. Okay. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is the first time we are in YouTube. This event occurs every Wednesday at the same time, which is 1 p.m. Eastern time. So let me just, without any further ado, go straight into the presentation. And here we go. Let me just prepare things. I don't want to waste anybody's time, so let me get this out of the way. Okay. Let me know if everything's okay, Mia. Yep. Mia, are you okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So here we are. Again, unfortunately, every content we produce, we have to have a disclaimer right at the beginning. Nothing that we share here is financial tax or legal advice. So this event does occur every Wednesday. It has been occurring before on our other group. And from today onwards, it's going to be happening here at YouTube. And it will be on every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We are also on Clubhouse Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern time. And again, we're also here at YouTube and Instagram, and we're fading away from Facebook, and we may fade away from Instagram. So again, nothing is financial tax or legal advice. And for those who do not know me, every person on the crypto space has some kind of expertise. They are known as blockchain experts or blockchain programmers or NFTs. I have no expertise. I'm just known as the risk-averse guy. And the reason for that is because I have a law. If there's a doubt, there's no doubt. Meaning, if I have doubts about a project or about investment, I don't move forward. There's no doubt. I stay away. Today, we're going to be talking about something very different than crypto. We're going to be talking about the bank run. We're going to try to explain a bank run in layman terms for those who are watching. So what we're going to be answering today. First, what is a bank run? How and why banks go bankrupt? And the difference between public and private money. And again, there are different terminologies for public-private money. We chose that terminology to keep in a language which is more accessible to everyone. So what is a bank run? A bank run is when people go to the bank, try to get their money, and oops, there's no money, or the bank cannot make you whole. That's pretty much what is a bank run is, when people lose their trust on a bank and a great amount of clients go to the bank and eventually they find out that the bank do not have the money to make them whole. Now, that's a way in which banks do go bankrupt. So how do the banks go bankrupt? And they can go bankrupt by two ways: lack of liquidity and, of course, insolvency. And if you do not know the difference between the two, just stick around. We're going to address what is the lack of liquidity and what is insolvency. So lack of liquidity, the best way to understand this is first talking about lack of liquidity for the family members. So let's say, for instance, a family happens to be broke, they have no money, they have a debt of $20,000, but guess what? They have a house which is worth $800,000, and they have an automobile that may be worth $45,000, which means they can easily sell their car, they can get a loan against their home, and they can make the debt paid. So that is lack of liquidity. You may not have cash, but you do have assets that you can sell and pay for your debt. So lack of liquidity is when the value of your assets are higher than your debt, right? Now, lack of liquidity here on a banking, we put a little symbol for the bank on the side. Let's say, for instance, a particular bank has assets on the amount of 100 million, and they have a total available cash of only 1 million. So what happened is clients come at the bank to withdraw, and the total amount that the clients are trying to withdraw comes to a total of 700,000. No problem. The bank has no issue there. Everything is fine. They have 1 million cash. 700,000 is being requested. They still have 300,000 left. No problems. The bank has liquidity and everything is fine. Now, what if those clients are in larger numbers, and now they, instead of 700,000, they want to get 7 million. Remember, the bank only has 1 million available, but guess what? The assets of the bank is worth 100 million. So in that case, what the bank would do is will sell some of their assets to make their clients whole. So if they sold everything for 10 million, now what happened is no problem. The bank got 11 million, 10 million for the assets sold. They diminished the asset holdings. People want 7 million, no problem. The bank still have 3 million in liquidity, and everything is, sorry, the available cash now is 4 million. Everything is fine. Now, let's say there's a larger amount of clients and they come to the bank and instead of 7 million, they want 70 million. Remember, the total cash available is 1 million. The total asset is 100 million. So this bank has a problem of liquidity. Now, what happened is the bank has to sell all their holdings of 100 million. And as they try to sell everything, guess what? The price goes down. Remember, the price depends. Do you want to buy or I want to sell? If I want to sell, the price drops. So in this case, the price dropped to 60 million. Remember, the clients want 70 million. And now the bank became insolvent because after selling everything, they only have 61 million. The clients want 70 million. That means some clients are going to get their money and some other clients are not going to be able to recover their money. So that's what happens. That's how a bank goes from lack of liquidity to becoming insolvent. And of course, then there's bankruptcy. Now, remember, insolvency is when your debt exceeds the amount of your assets. Just remember that. And illiquidity is when you don't have enough cash. So illiquidity is lack of cash. Insolvency, you are back on the streets. Now, the question is, why? If banks create money out of thin air, why can a bank and how can a bank go insolvent? And the answer is very simple. There's a difference between a pile of cash and digits in your account. And most people believe that should be the same, and they're not the same. And the difference pretty much between public money or private money. And to make sense of public money, let's just say public money is the money that all the public accept as money, right? Or is issued by the government. And your digits in your account is created by the bank. So let's understand public money and private money. So public money in the past used to be gold. It was not even issued by government, but the entire public, everyone accepted as a form of payment on settlement. And of course, that gave birth to private money. You could take your gold and exchange for a certificate issued by a private company saying that your gold is there and that company had the responsibility to make you whole. So when you take your gold, when you used to take your gold in the past, or a human will take a gold to the past, to a private company and receive a paper certificate instead, that would be a trade from public money, money that the entire public accepts for settlement in exchange for a private paper certificate. What happened is today, public money is literally any coin or bill that you hold in your hand. That is a way you can see public money is issued by the central bank. And how did that happen? Well, before 1971, for a certain amount of gold, there will be a certain amount of paper or money in circulation. So there must be a correlation between the dollars and the gold. What happened after 71 with Nixon, remember the US printed more dollars or create more money than they have gold. What happened is they just depeg, and what happened is the dollar became equal to gold. But the question now is, if the US dollar became equal to gold, what replaced private money or the gold certificate or money certificate? That was replaced, in this case, for this story, by digital money created by the banks. So when I explain that to you, remember, withdrawals in the past, you would go to the bank and get a certain amount of gold for your money. Now, withdrawals are different. Withdrawals occur when you use an application to move your money from one bank to another bank. Most people don't realize this, but there's a difference between when you go to the bank and get cash and when you take your money from one bank account and you make a payment to someone else on another bank account. So let's understand that. Remember, now, instead of being gold, this try to visualize this as money issued by the central bank, let's say the Federal Reserve. So what happened is you have the central bank currency, which is different than the private money issued by a bank. So for instance, let's say here, this bank, Morgan Bank, has a balance at the central bank account of X amount, which equals the amount of digital money that they have out in circulation. So Bank Morgan has all of these backed by central bank money, which is different than the bank from the other money issued by Morgan Bank. That's why I'm using different colors. So this color from now on is the dollar equivalent, which is issued by the Federal Reserve or the central bank. And this color here would be for the Bank Morgan deposits, which are the client's deposit on the balance sheet. So Bank Morgan can create as much digits as they want. They can give loans to their clients and they can create money out of thin air, except that this money is different than the money created by the central bank. So just remember that now what happened is Bank Morgan is doing what we call fractional reserve. And it can continue doing this for a very long time, no problem. It can multiply 6 times, 10 times, no problem, except that Bank Morgan has to interact with other banks. So now we have here, Bank Morgan have an account with a central bank where this is backed, and the same thing for the Rock Bank. And look at the color difference, right? So the Rock Bank deposits have a different color, but their deposits with the central bank is the same currency. So just think of this as Bank Morgan has its own currency, which pretends to be the US dollar, and the Rock Bank has its own currency, digital currency, which pretends to be the US dollar. And most people believe those two should be equal. They're not equal. Remember, those two banks have an account at the central bank and their balance is fine. Now, what happened is Bank Morgan is starting to print more money, give more money to their clients. And the Bank Rock, in this case, is a bit more conservative and doesn't do fractional reserving. Now, what happened is when a client from Bank Morgan is transferring or making a payment to a client on the Bank Rock, most people believe that the digits from that account go to the Bank Rock account, but that's not what happened. Why it doesn't happen? Because the Bank Rock does not accept the fake digital money created by Morgan. What the Bank Rock is going to demand from Morgan is something very different, because remember, this is a different color than this one. So what does Bank Rock want? What the Bank Rock wants is some of the balance that it is on the central bank on the name of Bank Morgan to come and be here at the account at the Bank Rock. And that's true for every private bank. No private bank's money can go to a different branch or a different private bank or commercial bank. So even though you see everything equal, they don't see that equal. They do not accept each other's money. They only accept the money that has been issued by the central bank. So what has to happen here is Bank Morgan has to send its balance from Bank Morgan to the Rock balance for the Rock Bank on the central bank. And after you do this once, guess what? The other clients do not have a way to back it up. So in a bank run, let's simulate this again. Let's say there's a distrust on the Bank Morgan and clients wants to move their money to a Bank Rock because they think the Bank Rock is a more solid bank. And most people believe that this is what happened. And remember, this is not what happened. What happened is the balance on the central bank balance sheet has to go from the Bank Morgan to the Bank Rock. And once that is done and there is nothing left there, the other clients cannot have their money, and then Bank Morgan goes bankrupt. That's pretty much what's happening right now for the past 2 weeks. People are not going to the bank and withdrawing their money. They're just going on their laptops and moving from one commercial bank to another commercial bank. But commercial banks do not accept their currency. They only accept currency that was issued by the central bank, in this case, the Federal Reserve. So a little recap. We answered to you what is a bank run. We showed to you how do banks go bankrupt. and explain to you the difference between lack of liquidity or illiquidity and insolvency, and explain to you the difference between private money and public money. So that was all for today. Remember, you can find us at Clubhouse, here at YouTube. We're going to be fading away from Facebook, and we're fading away from Instagram. And with that, I hand the floor to answer your questions. Did that make sense for everyone? Could you guys get it, or was it a bit over your head?
Yeah,
Yes. No, it was good.
too fast. For me,
Okay.
I'm sorry, for me, it was just too fast.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's okay. I can listen to it again. It doesn't matter. It's okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry. Let me just mute
I see
myself.
Evelyn unmuted. Go for it, Evelyn. Evelyn, are you there? Maybe she's not there. Any questions, anyone? Welcome back, Miss Lee, Tamara, Marquitos, Georgi, Ross. To me, I think this was, yeah. That thumbs up mean you could understand, right, Ross? Okay, we have also Rodrigo here. So any question, anyone? Or Tamara is writing something. Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. So any questions, anyone? Doesn't have to be regarding the presentation. It could be regarding anything else. What's going on? I think Cora may have some questions. Cora?
Not exactly a question, but maybe, for example, if Maria, she's saying she didn't get it, or maybe it was fast. Do you have like I don't know, key points that maybe you can share about the presentation? Like, what is exactly what you want to say? I know it is.
Okay. Okay. So what's the most important thing for people to understand here? There's a difference between the money that you have on your bank account and the money that you hold in your hand, right? So for instance, I don't think I have any money here. Maybe I do. I normally don't carry any fiat. Now in Portugal, I have some fiat. So let's say, for instance, there's a huge difference between a 50 euro on my hand and a 50 euro on a bank account. So let's assume I had a bank account, right? The moment I give this, let's say, let's create a name here, the Rock Bank, like I say there, right? When I give this to the Rock Bank is going to put 50 euros on my account. And most people treat that as 50 euro. But guess what? Let's say now we have Morgan Bank. The 50 euros on Morgan Bank is not equal to the 50 euros on a Rock Bank. So once you go from one particular bank, in the case of the US, for instance, if you have the Republic Bank, and then you have Morgan Bank, JP Morgan Bank, $1,000 on each of those accounts are not the same. Because what happened is the $1,000 from the First Republic Bank may not be backed by the money issued by the Federal Reserve. So it could be that the First Republic Bank, in this case, it's actually true, the First Republic Bank does not have $1,000 on their bank account or on their account with the Federal Reserve. Because what happened is the Federal Reserve allows commercial banks to have account with the Federal Reserve. But you as a citizen, as a regular person, you do not have access to the same thing or to the same account. The only way for you as a citizen to have an account with the Federal Reserve is by holding the US dollar on your hands. Now, what happened is when you go to a bank, let's say here, this cube is First Republic Bank. When you put your money on the First Republic Bank, the First Republic Bank is going to take that money out and it's going to give you digits of 50 euros. Now, if you take another bank, let me say here what I can use as another example. So let's say this is the Rock Bank, right? When you take money from this bank to that bank, in your computer screen, you see, let's say, $1,000 from this bank goes to that bank. But that's not what happened, because whatever balance you have on the First Republic Bank will not be accepted by Rock Bank. So what this bank has to do is go to their account with the Federal Reserve and change their balance on the Federal Reserve to this bank for whatever amount you change. So you see on your computer $50, let's say, going from this bank to that bank, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is their balance with the Federal Reserve is changing from one to another. So that's why when you go to the commercial banks and you don't have to go physically, you go to your computer. So let's say if enough people take money from the First Republic Bank and change to JP Morgan's, that means whatever balance First Republic has with the Federal Reserve is going to go from their balance to the balance here. And if they don't have enough, of course, there's a fractional reserve, they won't have enough. So the first clients to move their money from First Republic Bank to JP Morgan Bank, they're going to be fine. The clients that would do that last, because First Republic does not have enough balance on their account with the Federal Reserve, that's why they're going to go bust. I can go back to the slide and show that to you. Like, maybe I can go back and emphasize that again. So I'm going to share the screen again and go back there so you guys can see what I'm talking about visually. So let me go back here. So let me diminish this. So I'm close this chat. So let me say here, look, let's start with the Morgan Bank, right? Morgan Bank has this amount of deposits being backed. That means for this pile of Morgan digital money, there's a balance at the central bank, let's say the Federal Reserve. So this is their balance. Now what happened is, as Morgan Bank can issue more money, they're going to start to issue more money, right? Somebody's going to come for a loan for a house. Someone else is going to ask for a loan for a business. And as long as clients don't withdraw, the Morgan is fine. Now, look, they have 3-to-1. They went from 1-to-1. Let's say this is 1-to-1. For each dollar here, there's a dollar here at the balance of the Federal Reserve. Now, what happened is when they start to go on leverage, creating more currency than enough backing at their balance with the central bank, and they do it again. So now they're 6 times leverage, right? And their balance remains the same here, but they create their own currency, the digits on their account, but this is all they have at the Federal Reserve Central Bank. Now let's create a second bank. Remember, Bank Morgan Backed Deposit is one pile. They have one pile here at the central bank. The Bank Rock has one pile, and look at the color, it's different color. Why is different color? Because this is the money created by the Bank Morgan, and this is the money created by the Bank Rock. Now look at their balance with the Federal Reserve. It's the same color because those are interchangeable. Those money here are not fungible. Bank Rock would not accept money created by Bank Morgan. So when Bank Morgan start to fractional reserve and create more money than they have enough backing. So let's say now 30% of the clients, 1/3 of the clients from Bank Morgan is moving their money from Bank Morgan because they don't trust Bank Morgan and they want to move to here. When they go to their computers, in their minds, this pile of money from the Bank Morgan is coming to be pile of the Bank Rock. But look at it, it's 2 different colors. The Bank Rock does not accept this. What Bank Morgan has to do, they have to come here on their balance, which they both share with the central bank. And what Bank Morgan is going to have to do, because remember, this money cannot be accepted by Bank Rock. Bank Rock only accepts this money here or their own money. Now, what happened is the money, which is here, 1/3, goes to the balance of Bank Rock. Now, Bank Morgan has no enough balance to make the rest of their clients whole. Because if more clients start to move their money to Bank Rock, remember, this money created by the Bank Morgan is not going to be accepted by Bank Rock. all that has to happen is their balance with the central bank. Now, Bank Morgan doesn't have enough to make their clients whole. And then Bank Morgan at this point goes bankrupt because their clients need to withdraw, but they want to put money from here to here. They want to move their money from Bank Morgan that they don't trust into the Bank Rock. But guess what? Because there's no balance on the account that Bank Morgan holds with the central bank, now Bank Morgan is bankrupt. Did it make sense now, Maria? Go for it. Go for it, Maria. Ask your question. I think you're muted.
It does. It just means they don't have enough money to cover off on anyone coming to withdraw money.
Yes.
That's basically what it is, right? And
Yes.
that's what happened in Greece. That's what happened in Turkey. That's what happened in some northern countries too. So we've seen it happening in other countries, and it happened in Brazil, I guess, too, I would think, right? Where you come from. So yeah, so they don't have enough money. So it's basically just numbers on a computer, basically. And then like myself, when I want to pull out a large sum, I call my manager ahead and say, okay, can you please make sure you have that money? She has to check if she has it. So, and if they don't have it, they have to bring it in. So yeah, I get it. Now I get it.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's important to understand that even the digital number, right?
Yeah.
The digital numbers that you have at one bank, the other bank from a different flag, let's put it, let's say JP Morgan does not accept the money that was created by the First Republic Bank.
Wow.
JP Morgan would only accept if the First Republic Bank move digits on the ledger that they hold with the Federal Reserve. That is what the Morgan Bank would accept. They would not accept any digits created by any commercial bank.
So if I could just add something.
Yeah, go for it, Maria.
The same thing as a petrodollar. You can't buy oil unless you change your money to dollars, American dollars. And I think that's part of the problem why we have more countries joining BRICS, because they don't want to be bothered buying American dollars to be able to buy petrol. Am I correct in that, understanding that?
Yeah, so the petrodollar is similar in the sense that all those nations, they have an account with the US, and they need to change their balance. They need to have enough dollar on their balance on the ledgers, which are held in America, to transfer. But yes, if they start to, same principle, yes.
Yeah, same game. The Americans, the Americans are playing this game with the whole world, and the world is getting tired of it, quite frankly. Yeah. That's why we're having these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Evelyn, go for it, Evelyn. Evelyn, I think you're still muted. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, go ahead. I can hear you. Go for it, Evelyn. Is it me or we lost Evelyn?
No, we lost Evelyn.
We lost Evelyn. Okay. So go for it, Georgi.
She's here. She's here.
Go for it, Evelyn. Go for it. Evelyn? Can you guys hear her?
No. Connection problems, I think.
Oh, yes, but we have a question from Tamara while Evelyn is there. Is paper money on your hands safer than digital money right now? Yes. That's a very short answer. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So go for it, Evelyn.
Sorry about that. Yeah, looking at the entire system, it looks like it works more on credit than actual assets.
Yep. It works on debt.
Well, debt, right.
Yes.
So when they give you a line of credit, well, they're actually doing is creating a line of debt. And they're supposed to be making money off of that money that they lend you that you don't have. So when another client comes in who has the money in the bank and wants to take it out, but you've lent it to somebody who has no money in the bank, then the discrepancy is that you can't collect. You have no assets.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. Precisely that. Go for it, Georgi.
What is the ratio for $100 deposit? Like how much money they can create out of those $100? What is the ratio?
Okay. So before there was a ratio, I think was 20%, then lowered to 10%. As after 2008, they are required to have 0.
Oh, okay.
The requirement today is 0. Especially if you like take the depositor's money to acquire, let's say, bonds or anything rate AAA. Now, in 2008, when the crisis hit, the banks on average had 5%, which means for each $100 magically created into digits, they had
$5.
a $5 to 5%, $5 to back it up. And that was what, not trigger, but excuse me, that was what the reserves were when the crisis occurred. If you look at the first bank, and I think I'm pretty sure the video that I made for the first bank, it is somewhere, and we can put on the description later. But on the first bank, they had 5% reserves when they went bust, right? So the top banks in America have about 15% now. The requirement is 0. I'm just saying what they have right now. So the First Republic Bank had 5%, and I think JP Morgan has about a little bit over 15, between 15 and maximum 20%, like 17% more or less. So that's what they have now, which means if 20% of their clients or 20% of their value of their clients actually withdraw money, all banks cannot survive a bank run. Doesn't matter where you are on the planet, doesn't matter which bank you go to, no bank will survive a bank run because no bank has one-to-one. They always have a fractional reserve, which in America today is about, for the best banks, is between 15 to 20%. For the worst banks are about 5% as the First Republic Bank.
Okay, thank you.
There's another question here in the chat. The answer to that is Ben Bernanke. Ross asking, whose bright idea was to make the reserve requirement 0? I think would, yeah. So I would say Ben Bernanke, but actually, now that I'm thinking more, Ross, all of those banks, they obey the BIS, which is the Bank of International Settlements. And the BIS require, and has been the case for Basel I, Basel II, Basel III, 0 capital required for instruments on government debt and anything else rated AAA. So if you look at the crisis that occurred on Basel I, Basel II, and Basel III, they made a lot of changes except this one. And one example I can give to you is Greece, because it was government debt, was also rated AAA. But guess what? Greece couldn't make the payments, and you guys know the story. So it has been 0 requirement for whenever they're holding bank debt, and Ben Bernanke made in 2008, the requirement for reserves went to 0, and the Federal Reserve went from fractional reserves to what they call ample reserves instead of, yeah. I hope I answered you, Ross. Yeah. Marquitos, you wanna add something to this? Because Marquitos is also knowledgeable with BIS, though. I'm not sure if he can speak. Yeah, he cannot speak at the moment.
Mm, Boof.
Yes.
What do you, I mean, I understand what you're talking, Georgie question, but what do you mean by reserve in that case is that the bank needs?
Okay. So reserves is your balance as a commercial bank on the Federal Reserve account, right? So yeah, Basel one. So for instance, let's say for instance, I am the first bank. I'm a bank, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And let's say I have enough clients and all my clients together deposits on with me add to a total, let's say, of 10 million.
Mhm.
If I do have 10 million on my account with the Federal Reserve, I'm assuming in America, then no problem. I have 10 million that I need to make payment to my clients, but I also have 10 million with the Federal Reserve. Because what happens is when you deposit money, when you take this, when you go to the bank and you deposit, what happens is this goes on the balance of that bank account with the central bank, and they give you digits. Now, those digits, we all treat it as equal to money, but it's not. So among commercial banks and among the central bank, the only instrument that can make the payment is that which was created by the central bank. So if I have 10 million that I put into digits to my clients, and I have 10 million on my account with the Federal Reserve, no problem. There's another way to explain this, which I think for a lot of people in crypto makes more sense. Let's say I have 10 BTC on my exchange that belongs to my clients. If I have 10 BTC in reserves, which means I hold 10 BTC, no problem. The issue is once what I show on the screen to my clients, let's say is 100 million, and I only have 10 million on my account with the Federal Reserve, or if I show 10,000 BTC to my clients and I only have 1,000 holding. As long as my clients trust me and they are trading and they're doing things within my ledger, no problem. When they start to withdraw, I cannot give them fake number on my screen. I start to give them real money, which is in the case of an exchange is BTC or whatever cryptocurrency. But in the case of the banking system, is my balance with the Federal Reserve or my balance with the central bank. If my balance with the central bank has only 20% of what I have here, then the fractional reserve is 20% to 100. Right now, the requirement of reserves, I can have 0 reserves and I can have digits to my clients, even if my reserves are 0. Before, there was required for me to have 20% and then change to 10% and kept on diminishing the amount of I actually must have. Today, that requirement is 0. I can have 100 million on the screen and have 0 on my account with the Federal Reserve, and it wouldn't be a problem. The problem is when my clients start to ask for withdrawals and then I don't have the Federal Reserve money to give them. Does it make sense to you, Cora?
Mhm. Yes, I just wonder how it happens because on your example, you say that for me, if I am going to send my money to another bank, then I am sending the money to the reserve.
I'll make it different for you. Forget about the money.
Yes, and then
I'll
on the central bank.
I'll make it easier for you. Coinbase has BTC. So let's say, for instance, if you are, okay, I think let's say Binance. Binance has BTC, right? So let's say I have an account with Binance. Hypothetically, I have an account with Binance and you have an account with Binance. And let's say I need to pay you half BTC. Well, I have an account with Binance. I'm transferring my numbers on my account on Binance to you. Binance is going to take half BTC from me and put it to you. No problem. Guess what? Binance doesn't have to have half BTC because what happened is half BTC went from my account on Binance to your account on Binance. Binance have no problems. Even if they have no BTC, no problem because it's still numbers within the Binance exchange. Now, let's say Georgi has an account with crypto.com. And I want to send Georgi half BTC to crypto.com. Guess what? Now Binance must give crypto.com real BTC, because the crypto.com is not going to accept screen digits at Binance Exchange. So that's the difference when you try to withdraw from one bank, one commercial bank to another. So if you take Citibank to First Republic, or if you take from Citibank to Wells Fargo, they want the actual balance with the Federal Reserve the same way. If I'm a client at Binance, Georgi is a client at crypto.com. If I want to send half BTC to Georgi on crypto.com, Binance is going to have to actually take half BTC, real BTC, and send to crypto.com. Otherwise, the withdrawal cannot occur. But as long as I'm paying and transacting within Binance, it's not a problem. Binance doesn't need to have half BTC. I can send half BTC from my account to your account with Binance, and Binance doesn't need to have it. If you send to Maria's account, let's say Maria has an account with Binance, another half BTC, as long as it is circulating within the same exchange, no problem. When it goes to another exchange, that exchange is going to require the real BTC. The same thing happens on the banking system. The dollars on the screen on First Bank is not accepted by JP Morgan. What First Bank has to do is go on their balance with the Federal Reserve and transfer whatever their balance is to JP Morgan. Every time a client from First Bank sends money to JP Morgan Bank, they have to go on the Federal Reserve balance, because JP Morgan does not accept the digits that are on the screen of First Bank. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. So on JP Morgan, I mean, because if you send, I think that my question is how it starts, you know. Of
how it
course,
starts?
yes, because I don't know if you know what I mean, because if
Okay.
I send my money to one bank, then they have my money. If I send them my bills, my fiat currency, then it's just basically how it starts. Yes.
Okay, how it starts? Let's look at FTX. Simple. You deposit with me half BTC. Maria deposit with me half BTC. Georgi deposit with me 1 BTC. All your guys are depositing real money with me. And I think because you guys are all traders, you're not going to withdraw. So now I take your real, I put screen, I put a front, I put a trading platform, and you're playing with my software and you're seeing those numbers, and you think that those numbers are the real BTC, right? And I'm fooling you, I'm lying to you. Every time you look at the screen with numbers of money or numbers of BTC, those are fake. There's a video of mine on the channel called The Fake BTC. Now what happened is you are trading with me for a year and you don't take your money out. Georg is trading, he doesn't take the money out, he doesn't take the BTC out. Maria is trading, she doesn't take the BTC out. Now I have all this BTC and I'm showing you guys fake numbers on my screen, on your screen of your computer. And now I say, oh, that company, that exchange is collapsing. Maybe I can use some of this and buy that. They're not going to withdraw it. And then I see a nice yacht. Those guys are never going to withdraw it. Let me go and get a yacht. And now I don't have one-to-one. I have 20% of everything you're showing the screen. And then I continue seeing that people not withdrawing, and I say, oh, I can buy this, I can invest on that, and I can show myself as a millionaire, but what I'm spending is somebody else's money. So that's how it gets started. You send
basically,
money.
they invest, they use the money for something else, basically. So, for example, with an exchange, they don't really buy the crypto, and with the bank, they buy investments, and that is the answer, basically. Okay.
Or they buy marketing, right? They buy the right to put their name on a stadium. Okay. They buy commercials. They buy politicians.
Mm-hmm.
And when you need your
Because-
money, it's not there. Go ahead.
Yes, because if they don't, I mean, if they don't buy anything, they don't use the money for anything else, then it is always going to be there. The issue is that
Yes.
they use the money. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And on the banking system, what happened is they take that money and they actually invest on what we call long-term maturity. So let's say you put 100,000 in the bank now gives that money for someone to buy a home, and the money is there, like we saw in insolvency versus liquidity. When you come for your money, it's not that the bank has nothing, the bank has, let's say, real estate. But the thing is, you want your money now. So what the bank's gonna have to do is gonna have to sell or liquidate whatever they hold to pay you. And as they liquidate that to make you whole, the price is gonna drop. So because the bank has to invest your money, right? The problem is your money has to be there for whenever you want it. And the investment they make only gonna give their money to them 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line. So that is illiquidity. It's not that the bank is lying to you or misbehaving or acting out of lack of integrity. Is that the way it's set up, they are compelled to invest on something that's going to take a long time for them to get their money, but your money has to be there for you instantly. And that disparity in time is what causes them to go bankrupt many times.
So in other words, if I understand correctly, when we give money to them, they're supposed to be investing in something that makes us money back, right? I mean, even if they don't give me 1%, they give me nothing. But the money they're using is actually working to make more money. But in FTX, it wasn't working at all. He was just taking it, buying his own things, 300 million for whatever it is there, the condo and all that. So he wasn't making the money working properly. And that's why they were able to offer 8%, 12%. And the same thing with Celsius. This guy was talking BS all the time, right? And unfortunately, people were taken in, and I can see why, right? I mean, they had, I don't know how long he was in business as Celsius, but they said he was, he had such a good business background and all of that. So all they're doing, like the banks, they're just playing the game. And then the last one that's holding the stick is the one that loses it. It's kind of like, let's see what we can pull on people. And the fact that they even come up with saying you don't have to have any money, like the banks don't have to have any money, is wrong. I mean, the whole thing, again, it's a Ponzi scheme. Again, I've been saying this for forever. It's a Ponzi scheme with the banks. Wow. And it only comes out, we only see this coming out when people start taking the money out. There's not enough. They can't get to it. They can't fool us anymore. It's pretty much what it is, right? Have I got it right? Have I got it right?
Yes, but the thing is, I think I need to make a video about this, because I know a lot of people call a Ponzi scheme, and a lot of people call it a fraud. Fractional reserve, I disagree with being a fraud.
Okay.
And I think there's definitely not enough time to explain that here, but maybe I'll make a video and explain why I don't believe that fractional reserve is a fraud. And a lot of people believe that. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
A certain degree of fractional reserve is kind of required. The issue is when that fractional reserve goes to a certain extent where it becomes toxic or becomes dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe I should make Mia, write down there, please. I need to make a video, because not a lot of people agree with this. But my view is fractional reserve is not necessarily a Ponzi scheme. If you scale to a certain point, it becomes a Ponzi scheme and becomes fraud.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily like all fractional reserve is a fraud. So we should make a video explaining that.
Yeah, no, I don't mean all of it. What I mean is if they're not able to make you whole as a customer, and you have had faith in them and whatever games they're playing with each other, they don't make us whole, then there's something wrong with the system. that they can continue doing this. And very few people at the top are making all the money. Everybody else is like a victim. And that's what they want us to be, as a victim. You know, we work very hard to make our money, then they can just come and take it away from us with all this finagling that they're doing. You know, I mean it that way. It's finagling, you know?
Yeah. So, but just for make sure I get it clear, like fractional reserve on the banking system is not necessarily a fraud. Fractional reserve on exchange is fraudulent.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
want to make sure there's a distinction. Fractional reserve on the crypto space is always fraudulent because an exchange is not necessarily a bank.
Mhm.
But fractional reserve on the banking system is not necessarily a fraud. I will make a video and explain
Mhm.
why I don't see it as being fraudulent. So
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
yeah, Ross. Yeah, I know, Ross. I know it sounds fraudulent, and I know not everyone shares the same view as me, but I will demonstrate, hopefully on a video, why it's not fraud, okay? But to make it a very long video short,
Mhm.
is because they have to invest, right? Like if the bank on a savings account has the obligation to give you a return,
Of course.
how are they going to get a return without investing?
Mhm.
So in the moment they invest, they are already on fractional reserve.
Yeah.
So if someone puts 200,000 on their savings account, they will, guess what? They expect that money to increase in value. The only way for that money to increase in value is if the bank take that 200,000 and invest on something. The moment that the bank take that 200,000 from the account, from a savings account, and invest on something else, they are already on fractional reserve because your money is not there. Your money is on a long-term investment. So I know maybe it's a short way to respond it, but I'm going to make a video about this, and that's why I would say it's not necessarily fraud. It's required if you want to have a return to have the fractional reserve. That doesn't make sense to you, Ross? Because you put a very beautiful question. I know a lot of people don't have this same view as me. Yeah, I'll explain that on a future video though.
Well, but if you have to make money, I mean, a business has to make money, right? I mean, your money has to make more money. I mean, that we understand, because that what do you, then you hold the same amount and nothing happens to it, right?
Yeah.
So
Just a second, Maria. I need to respond to the
Yes.
question here on Ross.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, so Ross said here, then I would say put your money in an investment bank, and then she says here, I understand perfectly and agree with. Okay, yes. So I'll make a video to to address this in the future, though. Yeah. Yes, go ahead. I think Cora, and then go back to you, Maria. Go ahead, Cora.
Yes, my question is the follow question. If you can explain Basel 1, Basel 2, Basel 3. That is too much. Is that
Yeah, we only have 5 minutes. I'll do this. Let's put there me a video where I can explain. Okay, I'm gonna make a short answer to you. So all central banks, pretty much, they have a meeting, or they have elected an association, create an association in Basel, in Switzerland, on a building where this institution, this association, have a chair and a board of directors, and they decide what the central bank should do. Now, it's not mandatory. It's not like whatever Basel dictates, if you don't do what the central bank, we're going to shut you down. No, they don't directly undermine the authority of the central banks, but they give some directives and how central banks should interact with the commercial banks. And what happened is, after each crisis, they create a new set of rules to prevent that crisis from happening again. So when one crisis was there, they create Basel I, another crisis, they create Basel II, and the crisis of 2008, they create Basel III, which is a new set of rules as to prevent the crisis. Now, if you read all of those rules, which is a very extensive reading, you see that they change a lot of things, and you think, oh, it's great. However, there's a common thing on all three of them, which is if you are a central bank and you're acquiring government bonds, you don't need to have reserve capital for that. Now, when you get a bond, and I think you are in the academy or you look at the course we made, you find out that bonds are literally a promise of the government to pay for a loan. So if the government needs loans, they issue a paper saying, I'll pay this much interest, I'll pay this much for this much money. So you buy that, and whoever is holding that paper is entitled to receive that money from the government. Now, what happened is, if a bank, a commercial bank, holds government debt, what happened is they don't need to have any capital. So let's say, for instance, I'm First Bank and I hold government debt for the next 20 years. I don't need to have capital to back that up because it's government debt. Regardless of the time on the Basel, I don't need to have capital. But guess what? When interest rate goes up, the value of those government debt goes down, because the government is giving me 1% return, and now interest rate is 3 or 4%. I cannot sell that without dropping the price. So when you start to sell it, the price drops, but you don't have any capital to back it up, you cannot make your clients whole. That is a bit more deep explanation on what happened with the First Bank. And I think the case of First Republic Bank, they also had municipal bonds and they couldn't acquire. So, but the Basel I, Basel II, and Basel III are just new guidelines or new rules that are suggested to central banks interacting with the commercial banks. That's the shortest response. I can make a video explaining Basel I, what they changed to Basel II, and what they changed to Basel III, and maybe that will be better for people here in the channel to get that. Well, Maria had to go. Did it make sense?
Yes.
I think we lost that. Okay.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And I think we come to the top of the hour. Some people have our commitments to do, so thank you guys for being here. This is our first time on YouTube. Let us know what you guys think of this. This event's going to be happening on a weekly basis. So, well, Tamara is saying thank you. She learned a lot. Okay. All right. See you guys next week. Thank you, Ross. Bye, everyone. So.